Canada is absolutely furious at Donald Trump and his regime. Just how furious? Well, Canada announced this week it was going to be restarting broad engagement with China, which China then responded and said China's willing to restart dialogue with Canada at all levels. So basically the kind of handshake going on right there, which is a big power move against Donald Trump and the regime and frankly, the United States. This comes during a week where Donald Trump was in the Middle East and didn't even know that Prime Minister Carney was the prime minister, repeatedly referring to him as the president. Donald Trump doesn't really know basic facts about the ways countries work. And then Prime Minister Carney went and after Donald Trump's kind of bizarre speech and said, "Thanks for the upgrade. I guess you promoted me to, I'm the president now." Here, play this clip.
Thanks. So you going back?
No, I'll go back. I'm glad you upgraded me to president.
Did I say? Okay. Go stop.
It's good. I started.
Please say didn't say.
Prime Minister Carney was like laughing at Donald Trump, just how embarrassing the whole thing was. There was a moment too where like Donald Trump called up the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, and like Keir Starmer thought he was going to be giving the speech, and then Donald Trump like almost like pushed him back, and Carney was looking at it like, what in the world is even going down right now? Let me show you. This is where Prime Minister Carney talked about this broad engagement with China right now. Let's play this clip.
Canada determining where can we trust the United States through ups and downs, and in what areas can we do that, and where should we have that exposure? It's a similar process with China. We are restarting broad engagement with China. We have a broader trading relationship with China. There are different levers that we have, or opportunities that we have for China in Canada. And we are in the process of having those discussions on a much broader range of issues than single sectors and single trades. Our foreign minister, Minister Anand, is arriving in Beijing basically as we speak, and we'll be meeting with her counterparts. And I expect to meet the senior Chinese leadership in the coming month or so, and we'll continue those discussions, and we'll see where the trade relationship evolves. Thank you.
Broad trade engagement with China. This also comes when we're learning that U.S. wine exports to Canada have plummeted 97%, and we're seeing this across a broad sector of products. This comes at a time where Canadians are saying they're struggling to get even the most basic information of relatives in ICE detention centers. It's believed that there could be over 150 Canadians currently locked up in these concentration camps and detention centers here in the United States. And it comes at a time where the United States soybean farmers are getting absolutely destroyed because Trump's disastrous trade war is hurting the United States. Take a look at this soybean farmer from Illinois.
The price of soy dropped under the Trump administration, largely the result of the Trump administration's trade war with China. John's crops, diligently planted, meticulously cared for, are losing their value.
Are you angry?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm totally mad. There's no reason for it. This is absolute stupidity. This is a man-made crisis caused by Donald Trump. Period.
Soybeans are the largest agricultural export from the U.S. Last year, the value was more than $24 billion. China bought 52% of those soybeans. Since May, the country has placed 0 orders.
I want to bring in Charlie Angus, leader of the Resistance Tour, leader of Meidas Canada. Charlie, let's start off with the big news this week about this trip. Canada, broad engagement with China in trade. This is a big deal, and it's sending a message also, I think, to the United States. What do you make of it?
Well, I don't think you can exaggerate in any way just how important this is in terms of changing geopolitical attitudes, also Canada's attitudes. And what you saw with Carney, he was always sort of being super careful, but what he said about, trust issues that we have with China and the United States, holy smokes. I mean, our relationships with China were absolutely toxic for a long time, and toxic because Canada was asked by the United States back in around 2021 to arrest and extradite the head of Huawei. Remember the huge fight between the US and Huawei about who was going to control the digital realm. And we arrested this Meng Wanzhou, the head of Huawei. China responded. They grabbed 2 Canadians who were over there. The 2 Michael Spavik and Michael Kovrig, held them for over 1,000 days. There was toxic relationships. A conservative MAGA machine here started a special committee to investigate China. So we're saying we got trust issues with China and the United States. It shows how far down the United States under Donald Trump has gone in terms of our level of trust. The fact that, we had 2 Canadians held in detention in China that caused, rallies in the streets and parliamentary debates. And we don't even know how many Canadians are being held by ICE. Some of the stories are nightmare stories. The conditions that they're being held in seem to be as bad, at least as bad as what the Chinese held our people in. So to shift our trade relationship with China right now will have major consequences geopolitically, economically. And we also, in Canada, we have huge Chinese Canadian population, huge connections with China all across in all of our major cities. So the trade benefits from this are going to be very clear, but the impact is going to be certainly our continually deteriorating relations with Donald Trump. And you saw that with the staggering collapse of the U.S. wine industry exports to Canada. We were the only game in town for the wine industry. All the other export markets for the US are almost non-existent compared to Canada. And when you drop 97%, that's a market that is obliterated. It ain't coming back.
Yeah, it seems that the boycott talk perhaps is happening less frequently, not because it doesn't exist, but because it's truly permeated as a way of life. Like, it doesn't even feel like it needs the discussion, because if you're Canadian, you don't buy the American product. Like, it's just part of what you do, versus even having to say it anymore, that it's become so permeated through what it means to be a Canadian right now. I may be looking into it too much, but it's just, it's unquestionable. It's undisputed. You just don't do it.
It's really an unprecedented example of people power. I think it's going to be studied in the years to come as one of the most unique resistance movements that we've ever seen, because it wasn't directed by anybody. Nobody organized it. It was just an entire population that said, we're not going to be pushed around. We're not going to be slapped by a gangster. And we find it deeply offensive that the country where we spend a lot of our money is a disintegrating democracy. So there's been multiple efforts. Las Vegas came on a kissy make nice tour. The Eastern governors tried it. Minnesota tried it. Apparently Montana came up and gave up because they were just getting such fierce blowback. Interesting, Louisiana, I think $185 million in Canadian trade. They were expecting huge trade this year because of the deep connections between the Cajun people and the Acadian, the Francophone culture. They were expecting huge market this year. It's disintegrated. It disappeared. It ain't coming back. The governor, actually, Nunsinger, I think is his name, he's calling on Trump to publicly apologize to Canada. So now you're starting to see the power of that economic pressure on American leaders and American leaders in key MAGA areas, calling on Trump that he's going to have to somehow backtrack. But I think that the damage is, and it is unfortunate for the American farmers. It's unfortunate for all the businesses that put so much effort. Once that market's gone and people have moved on, it doesn't come back unless there's a enormous long-term effort. And right now, Canadians have simply adapted. They've decided, okay, fine, we're just not buying. We're moving on. It's been a huge benefit to Canadian industries, Canadian operations. And we thought everyone thought we were going to crack and break financially, economically. We're under enormous economic pressure, but we see jobs. 68,000 new jobs in Canada in September. We are not seeing the stagnation that's happening in the United States, and all that money that would have gone south is going into our communities and our businesses. So we're adapting and we're changing. And Donald Trump is the cause of all of this. So he gave us one good thing. He gave us a reason to work together, but we will continue to oppose and speak out against the disintegration of deterioration of democracy on our border.
Yeah, other than Danielle Smith in Alberta, I mean, it does seem that there's a great deal of unity amongst even the premiers and the federal government at this point, right? Right. Everybody from, the NDP with a David Eby, a premier in British Columbia, to head of the premier of Ontario, a Doug Ford, meeting. Now, I think they have, obviously, there's other disagreements that linger beneath the surface on lots of other issues. Let's be very clear. But when it comes to a united front against the United States and a methodical plan internationally, while Donald Trump wakes up and is angry about this and rage post this or that, and it impacts our economy, it seems that in Canada, amongst leaders from different political parties, there's this idea of we have to be methodical and smart and surgical, and that these moves, whether it was defense and economic pacts in Europe, relation, what you're seeing now in China and broader Asia areas, there's a purpose to it, which we don't see here in the United States.
Well, it's really interesting. And I just want to, get people not to think that Canada is the land of Pollyanna. There's nothing more that we like than to squabble. I mean, regional fights is like been the history of Canada since day one. We love our grudges with each other, but you push us and suddenly we're all in the same trench. And even, Danielle Smith, the MAGA quisling Vichy leader in Alberta, the amount of resistance in Alberta right now is incredible. The messages we get, what we're seeing in terms of people standing up and fighting the MAGA agenda in Alberta. Danielle Smith has got more work on her own patch of ground because of the stupid positions she's been taking. So she's not leading the MAGA charge here. She's fighting a defensive war because Canadians in Alberta are saying we're not going along with this. The rest of the country is very focused, and we are disagreeing about some things. I mean, Doug Ford really demanding the Prime Minister go harder, go for further sanctions because of the effects that we're seeing on manufacturing. But that's all I think that's all good. And as you say about the methodicalness of it, the fact that our Prime Minister was in Ukraine, showing support to President Zelensky, sending a message. We get that Ukraine's the front line. Well, we're also the front line. Meeting with Finland and Sweden about defense measures. That's serious stuff because their enemy is Putin. Well, right now, our enemy is the creep from Mar-a-Lago. But the trade negotiations that are happening continually, building the export market for agriculture. I mean, it's called Farmageddon in the United States. So this year's a pretty darn good crop year for Canada, and we are exporting into markets that we weren't before. Ireland, Spain, the UK are buying our corn, not US corn. But this China thing, China's a game changer because if the relationship thaws with China and we start to work with China, you're actually seeing China step forward, I think, as the dominant world leader, as Donald Trump basically smothers the American century. And so realignments are happening everywhere. It's going to be really interesting to see where we go from this. And we know that Donald Trump's going to come back and attack us again. But we're ready for it. And as you see with the boycott, we've moved on in so many areas.
Before we go, what would be your message to Donald Trump and the ambassador to Canada from the United States who watches this show? What message do you want to send them?
Well, Pete Hoekstra, I mean, did you choke on your chicken sandwich when you saw the Prime Minister talk about how, Canada has to assess its risk and its relations with the United States just as we do with China? You've really done a great job there, Pete, in terms of making the United States from our closest ally, our closest friend, our cousin, our sister nation to a nation that's now, well, we're going to judge China and the United States and figure out who we want to go out with. Wow. Donald, and way to go. You continue to do this. How do you explain to the soybean farmers in the United States how you destroyed their market? How do you explain to the distilleries in Virginia, the bourbon market in Kentucky, the wine industry that has been absolutely obliterated? There is no comparison. I've been trying to find comparisons, Donald, to explain how badly you screwed up the American economy in terms of obliterating markets that were built over years and that will not come back. Donald, I've been trying to find a way to explain what you've done. And even I got 100 hyperboles I could throw at you. None of it even comes close, Donald. You are the ultimate screw up. And what was it for, Donald? So that your family could sell swag out of the White House? So that you could sell your crypto memes? I mean, you may be happy being a corrupt despot, but the rest of the world is looking at you and saying they don't want to have anything to do with you. Not now, not ever.
A reminder, Charlie Angus leads Midas Canada. So make sure you all subscribe to the Midas Canada YouTube channel. I want to see that YouTube channel get 1 million subscribers. Charlie Angus is also leading the Resistance Tour. So check back to see if your area will be visited by Charlie Angus. He's been making a lot of progress traveling the entire country. Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks so much. Looking forward to seeing people in British Columbia next week. So keep looking at the calendar, keep looking at the dates. We're going to be coming to your town.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million here.
Can't get enough Midas? Check out the Midas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.